Welcome everybody once again. Welcome both friend and stranger, old and new, to this time of worship in the Unitarian tradition. My name is Diane Rutter and I'm the lay assistant here at Kingswood Meeting House in Hollywood in the West Midlands. My thanks as always go to Peter Flower, whose dedication, technical skills and patience allow us to keep the Kingswood worshipping community alive and thriving. Towards the end of today's service, there will be a short service of communion. So you may like to pause the video here and prepare something to drink and eat, should you wish to join us in communion. So we'll start our service as always by lighting our chalice candle, as do many Unitarian and Unitarian Universalists the world over. And in doing so, we mark a time set aside for the divine. And if you would like to, please do light a candle in your own home to mark this time of separated togetherness. We light this chalice to mark a time of distanced togetherness, to invite the divine into our homes and into our hearts. And so we come to a time of prayer. I invite you to join with me in saying the words of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. My reading for you today is from the Gospel of Mark, from chapter 2. Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, and people came and said to him, "Why do John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "The wedding guests cannot fast while the bridegroom is with them, can they? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast on that day. No one sews a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old cloak. Otherwise the patch pulls away from it, the new from the old, and a worse tear is made. And no one puts new wine into old skins. Otherwise the wine will burst the skins, and the wine is lost, and so are the skins. But one puts new wine into fresh wineskins." And once more we take time for prayer. As people of faith, we give thanks to the divine for all that gives our life purpose and health. We should acknowledge our wrongdoing and work hard to limit the damage we knowingly or inadvertently cause to ourselves and to others. We should seek to train our minds to be true in all our thinking, just in all our judging, considerate in all our speaking. We should strive to be honest, truthful, and upright in thought, word, and deed. And we should be diligent and faithful in our varied callings, doing our daily work in all simplicity and integrity, seeking and labouring for those things which are honourable and just. We should bear with each other's differences and live in harmony with all people. We should endeavour to be of service to others, not absorbed in our own interests and pleasures. We should seek in all things to overcome that which is wrong and do our part to help heal the world from pain, sorrow, and injustice. Loving God, grant that we may love that which you ask of us, that we may effect good in our own lives and the wider world. Amen. Well, it may or may not interest you to know that this week I tore my favourite casual trousers. Trying to get a better view of the International Space Station passing overhead, I was craning out of a small window that opens the wrong way for stargazing purposes. And I tripped over one of the dog's beds and collided with a bookcase, in the process catching my trews on a nail. Now, I really like these trousers. They're a very comfortable pair of lightweight navy cords that are fabulous for gardening and crafting in. They've got plenty of room and they give in all the right places. Now, I'm not a bad stitcher, but I can't invisibly mend. And in any case, that wouldn't be possible with this tear. It will require a patch of some sort. Now, I've got some iron-on Vilene and some iron-on Wonderweb that will help, but I will have to find a piece of fabric that is suitable. It's got to be cotton, not too heavy in weight, not too light in colour, and it has to wash at the same temperature as the trousers. And the mend mustn't rub or there'll be trouble up at mill. I will mend them because I think the trousers are worth saving. I'm really very fond of them, and they still have a lot of wear left in them. Now, on first reading the verses from Mark today, I thought, is he trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Does the new completely replace the old? No, I came to the conclusion. The new is made from, or because of, or informed by the old. A bit like upcycling, or refurbishing, or even making new candles from collected candle ends. Such candles still burn brightly if well made, and often they can be a joy to watch because they're all different colours. Now, the title for these verses from Mark is often given as the question of fasting. But what they were actually doing is asking of Jesus, why do you not do as they do? Now, please bear in mind at this point that some of the authors of the books in the New Testament went to great pains to point out that Jesus was an observant Jew. He was spiritual and he observed the law of God. The old informs the new, my Uncle Arthur often said, that you learn something new from everything, he said, even if it's to say, I don't like that. One commentary on this piece concludes that the dynamics of the two sayings are the same. In both cases, the aim is to preserve both patch and garment, and wine and skins. Now, I'm not fond of the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, particularly as I get older. I suppose, though, that a lot of people like myself are very happy in their comfort zone. But that doesn't mean that we're neither willing nor capable of learning something new. Commentators also interpret this phrase as showing the difference between the then Jewish religious laws and Jesus' teachings, which for me teach a much more personal relationship with God based on love rather than the strict observance of anyone's laws. What the piece for me doesn't say is that one form of observance is better than another. I like to interpret the piece as saying to each their own. I know that's not how others may view it, but to each his own. The garment that needs mending can be made good, and the old wineskin may still have its uses. It may even again be used as a wineskin, but not filled with new wine. Perhaps Jesus was saying, my way of observing the law is different from yours. We have one life on this earth, and we must live it as best we can, whilst we can. And was it acknowledging change? A way of making the one God, the God of the Israelites, palatable to a world where custom and practice was different in each country, as it still is today. Today, we don't all read from the same canon of scriptural texts. When faced with the question, how many books are there in the Bible? I always have to put my hand up and ask, which Bible? Because different cultures have different canons. Have you ever read the Book of Enoch, or the Book of Jubilees, or the Gospel of Thomas? They may not be found in your version of the Bible, but they are familiar to other people. I like to think that we all have the freedom to interpret books for ourselves, both sacred and secular. I don't want to be pushed in a particular direction, nor would I want to push others. For me, a part of the meaning of these verses is to each their own. The author of the Gospel doesn't specifically say one or other way is better, just different. What I choose to hear in the New Testament is a message of love and peace, that perhaps Jesus understood that some people would not change, but that they still had worth. Perhaps it's a tussle between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. That it is worth the time and the effort to mend some things, upcycle or refurbish them. Now, it's a very broad interpretation, I admit, but I cannot conceive that someone who preached such a message would not see the worth of another religion or way of living. There have been many famous quotes floating around the various social media during the past year. One of my favourites is a Hindu text that is often printed with a picture of Mahatma Gandhi. Like the bee gathering honey from different flowers, the wise man accepts the essence of different scriptures and sees only the good in all religions. When researching the origin of the quote, I came across the following words also from Swami Vivekananda when he was addressing the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. It was in response to the welcome he was given. And he said, "I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true." And he included a quote from a Sanskrit hymn. "As different streams having different sources all mingle their waters in the sea, so different paths which men take through tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to God." I think perhaps that what we need to pray for is wisdom, so that we may all only see the good in all religions and be accepting of the fact that some people may be of no religion at all. That for me doesn't mean they can't be good people. What I would like to promote is a message of peace and love. If we live that example, maybe it will catch on around the world. There are certainly many people from many cultures and backgrounds who have extolled the virtue of peace throughout the ages. You'd think by now it would have caught on and that it would be understood and practiced worldwide, but there's no accounting for folk. And it's no use expecting change if we first don't accept the message and change ourselves. Am I as peaceful or as loving as I can be? And if I'm not, isn't it about time I got around to fixing it? I think those are questions worth asking of ourselves every day. Amen. so we come to a time of communion. And these words are from Barnaby Fader. Dearly beloved, the story is told that a man named Jesus dined nearly 2,000 years ago among his disciples on the eve of his arrest and crucifixion. Some say that Jesus took bread, spoke of it as his body, broke it into pieces and passed it amongst themselves to eat. And it is said that he poured them wine, that he likened to his blood, and urged them to drink it. Thus shall you remember me, he said. How could Jesus see his body in bread? All bread is the product of the relationship between seed and soil, sun and rain, and the people who planted and tilled it. The animals they used to share their labour, the work they did to extract the grain and convert it to flour, and the labour of making the dough and baking it. It is the product of knowledge passed down through time and foresight. Jesus saw bread as we do today, as both nourishment and a web of faithful and hopeful relationships. Eat bread, he said, so that remember how you and I are the same. And how could Jesus see his blood in wine? Wine represents a web of relationships every bit as wonderful as bread. When we consume wine with respect for its nature, it contributes to the health and happiness of any community in which it is shared. And yet wine is vulnerable, as each of us is, to abuse, spilling, and waste. Drink wine, Jesus said, so that you remember we are all vulnerable to abuse, even as we are blessed with life. We give thanks for the kindling of the light within and the deep assurance of the love of God. Amen. So I invite you now to say the words of the Kingswood Meeting House Covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This do we covenant with each other and our God. And I'd like to leave you with these words from the Reverend Cliff Reed today. We gathered as the family of God. We have drunk from the common cup of our heritage, tradition, and faith. Now we go out as witnesses of divine love and human fellowship to our one yet fractured world. Amen.